Hi everyone, welcome to Breakfast Saturday. Once again, join in. They edit our videos oddly, but we are excited with the odd editings also. We are excited that Saturday morning we are enjoying our amazing cup of warming while we are relaxing with everyone on an amazing Saturday. And this morning we are going to continue on last week's discussion. That is the Africanness about our opinion. They edit our videos with such long legs. When you open last week's video and you want to watch the discussion of last week, Ribea Elise sits there and then the whole legs look like giant legs on the video. So for the YouTubers, the edit South Africa had a good laugh with a whole lot of posts that we had in 2022 on our Vogue fashion. And they had good laughs on the purpose serving page about it. So I admire people having jokes and making fun about what we say because they do that in life, But don't miss on our photos and don't miss on our videos itself that we post on our own pages. The personal pages is you can add that ears and that long teeth and everything and the long legs about it. But when it comes to our personal work, we are really sometimes serious in what we are discussing, and we are really sometimes requiring that assistance from the YouTube business owners that manages the YouTube videos on their side, and also from the Instagram business owners that manages our pages on their side, to not miss on our work based on their businesses. Instagram business owners is not only an Instagram business owner, but they may be signed with the same agency or the manager that manages the celebrity house in America, and then the Instagram business owner would miss on your work. So what I prefer is, it's good to make jokes and we all can have a good laugh and we all can do New Yorker edits on everyone's photos about it. But I always say, when we really want to say something in our generation, then we want people to seriously listen to the dangers that are sometimes surrounding our generation. And then we sometimes give advice that we don't want people to laugh away, but we want people to listen to what we are sometimes giving our opinion on. Because I've learned that being born in South Africa, sometimes endangered in circumstances and they don't realize it because they have had the amazingness of laughing away stuff, and then they learn that constantly there's things happening around them, and they find themselves being in a mindset that what you sometimes can call a delusion, where the illustration is visible, where what they are, what's happening around them are visible, but they sometimes find themselves in so much ignorance on what is really happening around them, that sometimes people do that so that people can sometimes distract them away, so that they can sometimes find themselves in danger. And that's why I say, for business owners, for YouTube managers, don't miss on our videos. We know it's your teams that are sitting there and managing. And when we prepare the videos, it is your team that releases the videos. So when y'all are releasing the videos, don't edit our videos. We know there's a lot of edits that people can do. I do edits on my photos sometimes, the in-shot edits. There's a whole lot of edits that the Instagram teams have there that they can do on our photos. But what we request is, when we do our work, for the managers that wants to miss on our work and that are maybe busy fighting the world about it, don't miss so much disruption and so much argument and aggression in our generation. And that's just what I want to say about that. And that's what I wanted to say about what our generation are currently experiencing. It can sometimes somewhat be challenging for our generation to learn that they really sometimes find themselves surrounded with so much. And we're talking today about the Africanness about our opinion, and we have discussed it last week. And with discussing the Africanness about our opinion, we are sitting in the broad daylight, so we believe the video is going to be in the broad daylight of it, right? We want all of these things to be right. And while we are discussing this, and while we are in the Africanness about our opinion, and in where our generation finds themselves at in season, we want to today clearly listen to that we've mentioned last week. That is the baby in our generation, and how the baby are being listened to. Today we learned that so many people want to argue so much away that there was laws that were implemented in America there is the abortion law, and that logically you would educate people to manage their lives in such a way that becoming pregnant is not that can't be prevented. If people are really finding themselves in circumstances and having to learn that having to educate children, having an abortion fine rather than allowing yourself to not go and have sex in ways that you can get pregnant. Use a condom. All of those educations has been part of the education room for many years. And it's required for us to educate our children that if you're gonna go and sleep from this guy to this guy to this guy, then you are going to get pregnant. It's nothing to say that the baby in the womb has just arrived in the womb, and now the children can now sign up to go and get having to go and sleep this night with this guy, the next night with the next guy, the next night with the next guy already. And for such laws to be even listened to, a state our law that is going to allow children, to treat themselves, to abuse themselves, because when you educate children that there's going to be an abortion law and that you have the right to go and get an abortion because you can go and, mess your life up the way you want to, then how is that parenting in a generation that really wants to nurture and really wants to take care of their children, And that's where we are at with our seasons, discussing with the blossoming of our seasons. It is not that such discussions shouldn't even go into busy with. To have it implemented as a law, an abortion law, is those questions that you question our generation's leadership and say, then what are governments finding themselves busy with if they're busy discussing an abortion law, if they're busy working and implementing abortion laws? There's so much happening in countries that children can be educated that is depriving and oppressive to themselves, to where they find themselves at, and with how life can challenge them, And when they find themselves in circumstances like that, it is those circumstances that should be managed. It is not the question of an abortion law or not an abortion law, because an abortion law takes a whole generation into a whole discussion that is necessary, because if the education is right on a human level for children to be educated, to manage their lives and to control questions, then if children have themselves in ways that are fine for themselves, then they would not have questions on whether to go and seek assistance to get an abortion. It is where people in countries find themselves being oppressed, being killed out, women are being abused on a daily basis, and the whole discussion in the discussion room is whether people are allowed to have abortions. Abortion is your free right. It shouldn't be a law. People shouldn't waste their time in countries where countries needs to be managed. Prisoners don't want to be in prison for life. People need to learn that this is my human body and I have the right to look after my body and I have the right to make decisions that is fine for me. And governmental leaders who find themselves in those decisions that are fine for people in general, for the community in general, not discussing legislative laws on abortions and implementing and so much stuff and so much years in it. Y'all are now, governmental leaders are now meant to be discussing leadership requirements for prisoners. Why are prisoners in prison? What is the crime rate in countries? What is the poverty state in countries? What are the circumstances in countries? Rather than focusing on the sex drives of young children, it is those things that in countries we need to learn what leadership means to our generation in general, and we need to find ourselves in that we call the Africanness about our opinion, where government want to look at a circumstance in the way they have looked upon Africa for many years and many generations in poverty. Africa is sit there and it's like no one wants to do nothing. It's like everyone is blaming the one the other because they want to look at the people of the African nationality in a way that is disgusting, in a way that is when we listen to circumstances like Africa, we listen to that is the requirement in our generation to listen to the Africanness about your opinion in season and how people and leaders are working in Africa situations by creating an abortion law that is so argumentative, that is so aggressive, that has got so much discussion around the man and the woman circumstances that people are creating an Africa situation about that they want to, to legislatively educate children and, how to, be fine with where they're at, educate women and men, how to not abuse the one the other. It is educational processes that we implement in our countries, that we don't go and legislatively discuss around aggressing one another about it. It is those things that our generation in season can get right, and it is that Ribea Elise in season calls the Africanness, about our opinions and about where we find ourselves at in our seasons. Honestly, sorry for that. Yes, so countries having so much opinion and having so much aggression in creating circumstances, right? That we have to listen to what are required in season and what are parliamentary leaders addressing in our countries, in parliamentary houses and parliamentary implementations that are aggressive to women in countries, that they even in today's generation discussing and questioning the LGBT-ness of our generation. The LGBT-ness of generation are lifestyle choices. And when it comes to lifestyle choices, it is our right as parliamentary leaders and political leaders to educate our generation out of that. And there are sometimes choices that they sometimes do without realizing that they really want to do this good thing that is called LGBT and men's decisions. And there are human decisions that they have the right to decide whether they want to be men in a generation and woman in a generation. And when they find themselves in those lifestyle choices, we have a right as leaders and as parents in a generation to educate our children, to educate on television programs, to educate on radio stations, to educate in our communities. And that is fine. That is our birthright. That is, man and woman is amazing. And that's familyness. That's the birthness of family. But LGBTism there's nothing wrong about it. It is those choices that people have the right to decide to live their ways the way they want to live their ways. What we tell the LGBTQ teams is do not force your ways sometimes on the children, yes, but y'all have the right to live your lives the way that y'all want to. Y'all have the right to embrace all the colors that mankind are being educated about humanity in the completeness of the birthness of being human beings, It is those questions that when parliamentary leaders want to implement processes that they want to work on, that is, a natural way of life, and then parliamentary leaders are creating what we call war aggressions and war discussions. Because why would they want to aggress someone whose lifestyle choice is that today they want to live that life and today they want to make that choice for them, that they feel fine with, it is women that went into prostitution so many years ago, and women said, you know what, that was my choice, my lifestyle choice. Today, women are being forced to go into prostitution. Well, there's sometimes in this world today with prostitution, they find themselves being prostitutes. They sometimes do that because of the finances they are fine with, And when government learns that women are fine with that, then the requirement is that government implement processes that are fine for women that finds themselves that prostitution is not prostitution, but it becomes a daily job. So that women in this world doesn't find themselves being kidnapped to go into prostitution. When there's women in this world that decide, that prostitution are part of humanity, are part of our lifestyle choices. And there's women that sometimes really want to decide that they really want to go into prostitution. And then sometimes the only thing governments can make processes to make that right fine for women to decide themselves whether they want to have that as a daily job or whether they want to have, or whether or implement legislative rules on the abusiveness of prostitution processes and how legislatively prostitution, for women who want to be employed in that as a daily job, would be fine, because sometimes the finances are fine. Sometimes people's circumstances is of such a sort that they sometimes require the financial support, and then they are fine to even do that. And that's why in our day's discussions today, we ask ourselves, a pregnated law on abortion or a prostitution law where prostitutes are protected at, and where prostitutes feels that where women are protected at that when they are finding themselves in prostitution, and then there's sometimes that law that is a criminal law and the prostitution law where women also has a right to find under prostitution law themselves being employed as a prostitute and as a daily job, and that being legislatively approved, rather than people arguing their way around women being kidnapped and other women saying, but I'm fine doing that as a daily job, It is those educations that our generation can learn to educate themselves in that you don't tell people to go and do that, but you see that it's creating crime, and crime rates are rising because of prostitution. Women are being kidnapped about it. So what are governments then required to do? Governments are then required to not waste their time on abortion laws, but to rather look at the prostitutions and at the kidnappings and at the women abductions that is happening in countries, and finding the way around processes like that is fine for humanity, and that is fine for women in our generation. And that's where we want to be at in this season's discussion. There's so much, but what is it that is required of us in our season? And what is our opinion? Other people, where people can find themselves out of that. When we look at the LGBT situation that governments are wanting to create, and they want to more situation about that. When we look at the abortion rate, and we are requiring governments to listen to the situations that government are wanting to create around discussions like that, and discussions that can be fine, then we request governments to work on the crime rate in countries, the poverty state in countries, providing for countries that are aggressing abusive rooms, that are aggressing our generation further into war. Arguments like abortion, the abortion rate of the countries. Those are discussions that governments should find themselves drifting away from, and governments should find themselves working on processes that are going to be fine for people that finds themselves having to get out of prison, and government has to work on processes that are fine for the prisoner when they're out of prison, rather than focusing on LGBTism, lifestyle decisions, and lifestyle choices. It is for those leaders, we say, go and parent somewhere and allow the people to look at the people. If people want to parent women who find themselves having abortions because they find themselves in difficult lifestyle choices, if someone wants to parent those women, go and parent them somewhere else. But from the political standpoint and from political leadership in countries, we have to find our ways working on the disadvantaged groups in our countries. We have to find our ways looking after the poverty rate in our countries, looking after people who find themselves imprisoned and having to get out of prison and having to find themselves fine in the community again. Those are the processes that countries and the people now requires governments to listen to. And that's what we want to say with today. We had a lot of pauses on our video, YouTube team and people working on our Googling video. The pauses, but don't interrupt our videos with all the unnecessary posts on the videos. That is it with where we want to be at with the Africanness about our opinion. That's where we want our political leaders to be at, and to listen to the opinion of everyone in our generation, and not only finding themselves listening to where they want to parent their type of child in a generation. We educate the generation to say parent or lead the generation or the nation, rather than creating environments where leaders are wanting to parent from a political perspective and from a political seat. It is that your political seat is not that for you to want to parent your type of child, but the political seat are there so that leaders can find themselves managing the processes in hand, and so that everyone in the country finds themselves fine. And that is it where we want to be at with discussing today, and with our breakfast morning, and with a lot that we have to say like a podcast talker, but enjoy our Vox opinion during. Have an amazing Saturday further.